It's finally here, Godzilla monsters as X-Men. I'm taking 3 Godzilla monsters and I'm turning them into, well, mutants. Let's bring these illustrations to life. Hate, anger, prejudice and cruelty have existed ever since mankind has had emotions, often arising from the fear of the unknown. At first, it was those afflicted by illness who were persecuted, then those of different races, next those with opinions that differed from the majority, and finally it's come down to mutants, those born with mutations in their DNA. These differences gave those who had this mutant gene unique abilities or powers, as most would call it. To those who understood, this was not a condition or an illness, but gifts, either to help or destroy mankind. Mutations, as they were called by world governments, happen when someone turns 16. However, there are cases where the awakening of their powers have appeared at a later age, but sometimes an external stimuli can trigger the mutation hidden within a person's genes. There's no way to tell what powers or even how their appearance might change. And with recent events and the appearance of Hollow Earth, more and more humans were emerging from the subterranean kingdoms, each with unique powers and mutations. One such gifted individual who emerged was the last of his clan. His name was Zill, and he was a mutant with a rather strange mutation. Although his skin was a little bit lizard-like, although it looked like a minor skin condition, it was the first stages of his mutation. It was while travelling the streets of New York. Zill was trying not to stand out in this new and strange world. All of a sudden there's an explosion and impact that made the ground shake. Stood before him was a giant green hulking creature, on a rampage causing havoc and mass destruction. It was fighting a group of mutants who were in blue and yellow. One shot red beams from his eyes, while others flew. But they were being thrown around by this green giant. As the fight continued, Zill found himself in the middle of the chaos, as the green giant slammed its hands together, sending a mighty shockwave towards his opponent, sending them flying and leaving them injured on the ground. As the giant turned to him, eyes filled with rage, Zill just put his arms up and started to change. His face became more lizard-like, and he grew a tail. As Zill began to increase in size, his skin turned grey. He was becoming more reptilian and aggressive as his mutated genes began to absorb more and more of the gamma radiation. As this happened, the green giant started to stagger, becoming weaker and smaller in size. As the mutants watched in amazement, the giant turned into a skinny man, and Zill had become some kind of lizard-like beast, 2 to 3 times its size. With glowing pink spines down its back, he tilted his head up into the air and unleashed a giant blast, pink in colour, more powerful than any blast the mutants had ever seen. As with Zill, others from within the world of Hollow Earth began to surface, and even though most had mutations giving them powers, not all were kind and wanted to live in harmony with others, seeing the humans as beneath them and wanting to make them their servants. They saw their powers as gifts that made them gods to rule over those who were weaker, and to rule with a crazed bias for those who were loyal. One who had high ambitions went by the name the Scar King. He had a white mark across his face, and his mutation was similar to that of Beast in a way. His body was more primal and animalistic. Although he didn't have the same level of intelligence as Beast, Scar King did possess a rather lethal aspect to his mutation, due to his unique habitat in Hollow Earth. He could pull his spine out of his back and use it as a whip, with a blue gem on the end of it. You'd think taking out his spine would make it so he couldn't move. However, the Scar King has a rather high healing factor, and this whip was actually a part of his spine that could be taken out and put back into his body. There was another aspect to this bone whip. The gem on the end of it allowed the Scar King to control and force the aid of a powerful mutant from Hollow Earth, one who had the power to rival that of Omega-level mutants on the surface world. This allowed the Scar King to take over a city with ease and rule over the humans he enslaved. Anyone who went against his ideals were brutally and cruelly dealt with. Those enemies who caught his eye were turned into statues lining the garden of his mansion. News of this soon spread throughout the world, and the army was sent to recapture the city. However, they were wiped out in a matter of minutes by the Scar King and his Omega-level servant. It was at this point the government sent a team of mutants who undertake secret missions to go and deal with the Scar King. However, despite fighting for his loyal minions, finally reaching the gates of his mansion, upon bursting, they saw the frozen bodies of those who had opposed them previously, glittering in the light as if they were made of diamonds. As the team stood there in bewilderment, they saw that even some of the most powerful fire-powered mutants were frozen in the garden, as well as some figures they hadn't seen before. It was then they heard a strange noise and they looked to where it came from. The air turned cold, and a blanket of frost and ice began to spread across the garden, the blades of grass becoming still and motionless, as the green turned to a shining silver. The team began to invade, even as the air itself seemed to freeze. You could see their breaths as they exhaled, even though they kept a distance from the deadly blanket approaching. As one of the team flew up, their leg became covered in ice. This was far beyond anything they'd encountered before, and even alpha-level mutants weren't capable of something like this. At least, something with this frightening a speed. As the team managed to find a spot to regroup, a pair of glowing eyes could be seen in the shadows from where the ice came from. As the figure emerged, it was that of a female mutant, one with pale skin, long blue hair with pink, a long tail covered in frost, and what looked like glowing crystals coming out of her back. Her arms were like a humanoid dragon, blue scales and razor-sharp claws. The team knew they were in trouble, but they didn't know who they were up against. This mutant was not only from Hollow Earth, but she was also an Omega level mutant, one at the higher end of the Omega tier. This mutation may even be at a level above Omega. However, no one has seen a mutation as strong as this before. At least, not since Iceman unlocked his full potential after leaving the X-Men. The team were getting ready to attack the mutant they were being pinned down by when the Scar King showed up on his balcony behind her, whip in hand. He ordered his servant to destroy them, but the female mutant was hesitant, and the team saw this. They told her she could leave and be a part of this world, but she would need to help them defeat the Scar King. Hearing this, the Scar King became angry. He lifted his whip up and pointed it at Shimo, ordering her to destroy them. The team saw that she was in pain as the gem glowed. The gems on Shimo also began to glow as she opened her mouth and a bright light started to glow, getting brighter and brighter as the temperature dropped more and more. Without warning, Shimo turned her head and directed a beam and its freezing blast at the team. Hope you enjoy Godzilla Monsters as X-Men. Which one was your favourite? I kind of like how Shimo came out. It's my favourite one, but let me know in the comments below what other Godzilla monsters we should turn into X-Men style characters. Monday, there isn't going to be a live stream. Instead, it's another collab. We've got Kingpin Creations, No Comments Inc., Night of Arcane, and myself doing a video around the Amazing Digital Circus since episode 2 recently dropped. We're all going to be doing a cameo in each other's video. I'm not going to say which one I'm going to be in, so be sure to check them all out to see who's doing what. If you want more Godzilla content from the channel, why not check out the Godzilla Design Challenge